Hello and welcome to Timeless with Julie Hartman Live. It is Monday, August 19th, 2024. I'm Julie Hartman, and it is great, as always, to be with you. Just as a reminder of our filming airing schedule, Sean, I know already, is laughing at me or because I said filming airing. We have a filming schedule and we have an airing schedule. Dennis and Julie premieres every Sunday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, and then Timeless is live Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at that same time, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. So please do check out yesterday's episode of Dennis and Julie, and we're so happy to have you here with us on Timeless. 844-861-5537 is the call-in number, 844-861-5537. And as always, you can use the chat as long as you keep it classy. Hi, Sean McConnell. By the way, where's the chat?
How you doing, Jules?
I can't see the chat on the screen, but that's okay.
Chat?
The chat, yeah. I don't need to see the chat when I'm seeing Sean.
They hit the snooze button. They haven't really checked in yet.
Oh, that's fine. Well,
Okay.
I wanted to shout out the chat because I'm sure that many people are very excited for the DNC that is coming up right now. Well, it's starting today, and it's going until Thursday. Lord, holy moly. I have friends who are in Chicago, and they're saying that Chicago is being boarded up, and already things are really becoming nuts even before they're starting. My colleague here at Salem, Charlie Kirk, is on the ground in Chicago doing a reconnaissance mission to see what is going on. You probably all saw on Twitter that they have walls surrounding the DNC, that you need an ID in order to get into the DNC, which I think is fantastic. I think I'm all for security at events. But obviously we all know how very hypocritical this is given their positions.
Second. You need an ID to get into the DNC?
Yeah, you do.
You don't need one to vote?
It's true, Sean. It's true.
Okay, all right.
Well, I want to talk about really kind of what the media is saying about the DNC, and also sort of things in my life that I have done or I have noticed that I think very much relate to the DNC and how Americans are generally feeling about really the stakes that we're in right now between Kamala and Donald Trump. A few months ago on this show, I made a prediction that Joe Biden would not be the nominee. And clearly I was right about that. But I said that I thought that Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom would be the two to replace Joe Biden. So clearly I was wrong about that, because this week, because it is the DNC, Kamala is the nominee. Unless they pull some kind of trick, which I don't think they will, it's looking like she is going to be the nominee for president. And so because the Democrats are in this position where they have elevated someone where up until now was really considered to be a joke, they have to be very careful, obviously, about their strategy. And what I have noticed, and what I'm sure all of you have noticed, is that all of the messaging surrounding the Democrats' position has to do with Donald Trump. Maybe it's unkind, or maybe it's, I don't know, a little bit inaccurate to say all of it. Certainly, there are some things that they talk about that don't have to do with President Trump. But really, the main position, obviously, that they are pushing forth here is that if we do not elect Kamala Harris, and if we do elect President Trump, it's going to be a threat to democracy. And it's really fascinating to me how they're just kind of coming out and saying this. Like, they're not trying to establish a platform irrespective of Donald Trump. It's so much having to do with this man and the threat that he allegedly poses, which is interesting because, conservatives, we often say, or one of the things that people don't like about conservatives is that we seem to be always against something. We're always complaining about the left. And I take that criticism. I agree that a lot of the times we spend our time just criticizing the left. But I actually think we conservatives actually stand for something tangible. We want to conserve the principles of the American founding. There's a very clear set of principles to which we subscribe. And of course, we have fallen down from those principles. We have strayed from those principles. But by and large, you know what it is that conservatives believe. I often find with the left or with progressivism, I actually find that it is those individuals overwhelmingly who are defining their political positions as opposed to something, as standing in contrast to being for something. And we see this now with the DNC, that so much of it is really just about President Trump. Because again, Kamala Harris was seen both inside and outside of the party as a joke up until this point. And so they have to make it all about Trump. They're really defining this platform now as what they are opposing as opposed to what they are for. Yes.
This has been their drumbeat, their mantra, that he is a threat to democracy and that if he's elected, democracy will end as we know it.
I know.
But I find it so ironic that whether you're on the left or the right, it's got to bother you a little bit that Kamala was put into this position without any democracy.
Oh, it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And by the way, like, I was talking with my friends about this weekend, and as you know from last week's Timeless, I have a friend staying with me, and then I have another college friend who came to stay with me this weekend. So there were three of us, and we're a little different politically, and all of us just agreed that it's crazy that former President Trump had an assassination attempt a month ago or 5 weeks ago, and we've just moved on from that. Like, oh, whatever, they missed. Same thing with President Biden dropping out. I mean, remember the George Stephanopoulos interview when Joe Biden was saying, only if the Lord Almighty tells me, Joey, I forgot what he said. He probably referred to himself as Joey. Joey, you got to drop out. He said that is the only situation in which I would drop out. And then he drops out, and we're just all acting like this is fine. Like, this isn't nuts. But we know that the change, the rapidity of change in this country has been, I'm sounding like Kamala Harris, the rapidity of change in this country has been so rapid. The rapidity of change has been rapid. Seriously, though, over the past few years, things have transformed so much that we kind of just view all of this as completely normal. So no wonder people aren't fazed. So before this, I was looking at how CBS is reporting on the DNC. And really, it's fascinating to see the kind of things that they have slated for the next few days. I'm reading here directly from CBS, quote, on Wednesday, they'll have a theme, quote, a fight for freedom, where former President Bill Clinton and Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California will speak. By the way, CBS is starting to sound a little bit like Kamala Harris, where Speaker Nancy Pelosi of California will speak, according to a source familiar with the schedule. I gotta say, I don't get that joke. I know you say that's a Nancy Pelosi laugh. Maybe I just am not on my Twitter enough to know that that's the Nancy Pelosi laugh. But maybe we've also gotten so used to the Kamala laugh that we don't even remember the sound of the Nancy Pelosi laugh. But yeah, no, they're talking about this speech on Wednesday, or this theme on Wednesday, is a fight for freedom. You know what that's all about. Donald Trump and these MAGA conservatives are so bad, and we are the people who are preserving the freedom. But the question that I have, and I know that many people have, is, why were you not preserving it all along? Vice President Kamala Harris gave a speech the other day where she was talking about how things are still so bad right now in this country. And look, I get it. One of the best things about this country is that we do have a division of power. So no matter who becomes the president, there's always going to be a balance of power that's going to be checking the president. That's absolutely true. So you can't blame anything totally on the president or the vice president, and you can't also blame or praise, the president or the vice president fully for things that go well. I understand that. But it's just very interesting that right now, many of these individuals who have been in power for decades, whereas Donald Trump has not been in power for decades, they're talking about how we are in this existential moment where we have to fight for freedom. And it's like, well, what have you been doing for the past 50 years that you've been in Congress? Or in the case of Kamala Harris, not 50 years, obviously a little shorter than that. But nobody seems to really call that out with many of these individuals. CBS, to its credit, went on in this article to say, quote, Democrats unveiled a draft of their platform in July where Mr. Biden was still running for president. Yeah, that was only a month ago. It mentions Trump dozens of times, seeking to draw a sharp contrast between Democrats' priorities and the positions of the former president in Project 2025, a conservative blueprint for the next Republican president. It's true. They're just totally focusing on Donald Trump in Project 2025. You know what's interesting? The Heritage Foundation, which is in charge of Project 2025, has been releasing memos, or these, I don't know if they, called it Project XYZ, but they have been releasing these memos or these kind of dossiers every presidential election, which outlines their view of how the president should rule, and specifically with Republican presidents. And then it's really only with Project 2025 that people are making such a fuss about it. But then in the past, when the Heritage Foundation would release these memos, we don't even know their names. So we just have to understand that so much of this is concocted. I wish more Americans saw that this whole idea of we're fighting for freedom, which I'm going to sound hypocritical. I do believe we are fighting for freedom, but we're fighting for freedom from the threat of the left. But this whole idea of that right now we are in this existential moment from MAGA and from these horrible Republicans who really just hold policy positions that were mainstream 20 years ago, that is concocted. This whole, Project 2025, oh my gosh, it's this horrible Handmaid's Tale-esque memo, which is going to lead to the rapid demise of the United States. It's like, let's put on our thinking caps here. Let's not succumb to this hysteria, which is really concocted for this election cycle. Let's have a clear head here. But the problem is we're being bombarded constantly with these narratives. And I even find sometimes, as someone who I hope and think is a clear thinker, or certainly endeavors to be a clear thinker, sometimes we are so bombarded with these narratives that you even catch yourself kind of going, wait a minute, is Project 2025 this really bad thing? Is this, a really existential moment? It's constantly being thrown at us. One of the people who constantly throws this at us is Don Lemon, as I call him. Don Lemon is his real name, but I enjoy calling him Don Lemon. And this video, which we're about to show, I think really evinces this point I'm making, that right now the Democratic position is so much about what it is opposed to, i.e. Donald Trump and this alleged existential threat to democracy posed by MAGA. That is really what's going on here. It's all about Trump, 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 and democracy, as opposed to what do you really stand for? What are you really fighting for? Should we roll it? Let's roll the clip.
We're here in Jersey, Atlantic City. Who do you support?
Trump.
I plead the fifth.
Trump for the win.
Tell me why.
I can't really call that right now, but I just feel like she's not good for president. She's good vice, but not for the actual lead role for the country.
Does it have anything to do with being a woman?
No. No, because I feel like women, nah, you're not going to give me that.
Your money's on Harris.
Yeah,
Who do you want?
Trump.
Why don't you like Harris?
Oh, she doesn't have any experience.
Can we just pause for a
It's
minute?
the vice-
Why isn't it about the policies? He's not asking any questions about policies. He's asking about, look at that first question. He's asking about, is it because she's a woman? Why is that the immediate go-to? Keep going.
President, she's a senator.
Yeah, no experience. No. She had no experience.
Well, I want Donald Trump.
I
I
like
just
that
feel
guy.
we need somebody that has a stronger background with the military and the world in general.
She was a prosecutor and an attorney general and a senator and a vice president. You're in a gambling town. Who's your money on?
I'm gonna support the Democratic Party, but Trump looked like he got it in the bag right now.
4 years ago, it was a lot better. I made a lot more money than I do now.
I know you feel that way, but that's not actually what the record shows. The economy is actually better under Biden. No, I'm serious.
At least he's talking about policy.
That's what the
then.
facts
Watch
show.
CNN?
Okay, you know what?
No, that's not because I watch CNN. Trump or Harris?
Trump.
That's who's going to win.
That's who's going to win.
Who you support?
I support Trump. All the people that came to this country legally, it's not fair that they're letting all 10,000 to 15,000 people or 20,000 people here illegally. Have you seen San Diego? Yeah. They're coming off the boats, off the water right here, off the ocean. Did you know Biden was flying them in? Did you know Biden was flying them in? You didn't know that?
What do you Canadians think about what's going on here?
We think you're all nuts. We're just watching from afar and just enjoying the show.
I got to get out of Atlantic City. Where are we going to next?
See, look at that. Like, I don't know, maybe, Sean, I'm curious what you think. I think he's saying I need to get out of Atlantic City because of all the Trump supporters. Is that how you read it? Why he wants to get out of Atlantic City? Or do you think that was just a nice thing to say at the end, like I'm going to the next city that I'm filming a video at? I think he was saying at the end, like, oh, I need to get away from these horrible people who support Trump.
Yeah, or he has a closet gambling addiction, and he felt triggered sitting at the slot machine. No, I don't think he got the answers he thought he was going to get when he went out on the strip there in Atlantic City. I look, all these policies. I have a new theory. My new theory is bring it on, Kamala. Let's do your worst, because I think the people are starting to see that you can talk all you want, but people have grown weary of the lies on both sides. And the numbers are the numbers, and it's like you're talking about. The policies are the policies, so it doesn't. All of the rhetoric is falling on deaf ear. I hope that's the case.
I hope. I don't know. I think that one of the main problems is that we as conservatives can't articulate our positions particularly well. It's very hard to face the onslaught of lies that we get from the media constantly. But even in that video, and I mean this with such respect to conservatives, that woman, and I hear this all the time with conservatives, they say like, oh, we need more people who are, have a military background or this or that. It's like, this is so easy. Articulate the positions well. The border is out of control. We are on the brink, perhaps, of World War III. I mean, there was the October 7th massacre in Israel. We had the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. Putin invaded Ukraine right when Joe Biden took office. Putin invaded Georgia under President Bush. Putin invaded Crimea and the Donbass under President Obama. Nothing under President Trump. And then immediately under Joe Biden, they invade Ukraine. I have example after example on the show of how all around the country, our State Department of Education codes have been transformed in order to proselytize these insane race and gender theories. It just takes one example. It just says, I wish this individual would say the Oregon Department of Education says that finding one right answer in math is white supremacy. That's really it right there. We just need one or two things. We just have to say the border. We have to say Afghanistan. We have to say the Oregon Department of Education or the California Department of Education says that it's discrimination if teachers notify the parents of a pronoun change or of a gender change of the child. It takes just one or two examples, but I find that we are just unable to really get to the point, which is that the real threat to democracy is coming from the left. The real transformation is coming from the left. It's just bad. I don't even know what to say at this point. It is just so bad. Right. And people, and I'm so sick of, forgive me, I'm upset at both sides because the left is so, and of course, I'm not trying to refer to the left as a monolith. Not every single person on the left or liberals have the same positions. But the left just bombards us with these lies that Trump is this horrible person, that he's a racist, that we who support him are threats to democracy. But then we on the right cannot articulate our positions very well. We just can't. And we also bow down really easily in the face of these lies. I mean, we had mentioned just a few minutes ago that it was only 5 weeks ago that Thomas Matthew Crooks attempted to assassinate the president. And thank God he did not succeed. We conservatives got to be more out there talking about that. I mean, we are culpable in this too. It's, we often blame the left for a lot of things that are going wrong in this country, but we have to do a better job of articulating our positions, and we have to do a better job of reminding people of the horror, including the assassination attempt on the president that we've just kind of waltzed past, to bring up the name of our vice president. Yes, Sean, I saw you wanted to cut in.
No. I think you've said this before, and Dennis talks about it all the time. It's not about the individual person. It's about the left agenda, which has infiltrated the Democrat Party, and they've done nothing to keep it at check. And you may not be 100% Trump, but you can recognize that the country is probably safer with him in the White House than anything the left has to offer. It's a good thing that Joe Biden stepped down. It was clear to all of us for months, and finally to the majority of the people in the Democrat Party, that he was not serviceable, that he was not functioning, and it was from his cold, dead hand. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but somehow they got to him and got him to step down. So now you have Kamala. But it's not about her. It's not about Trump. It's about the two factions in this country that need to do their best to set aside the frosting, the ancillary things that don't really matter, and focus on the issues. Were you better off 3.5 years ago under Trump economically before COVID, or are you now? Or did you hear what Kamala's economic plan was on Friday?
No.
It's crazy. She's talking about price controls she's going after corporations for inflation rather than dealing with the fact that this administration has caused inflation, and she's still in office. She could be doing something about it right now, and they're not. She's just talking about what's going to be or what has been, unburdened by the past. But we're talking about right now. You don't have to love Trump, but you do have to recognize the danger coming from the left in this country.
Yes. And we're very zombie-like in the face of all of this. And I saw that this weekend. I want to tell you about something that I did yesterday, this really fascinating experience I had where I was wearing a MAGA hat. Those of you who tuned in last week and saw the episode with my friend Morgan, and if you watched until the end, you saw that we went on a walk and I wore a MAGA hat. This is me in and out wearing a MAGA hat. And those who've been watching the show for some time, I hope you know that this is actually very antithetical to who I am. I don't like being, at least with the exception of doing a public talk show, I don't like going out in public and being too political. But I think we're in a moment now where we have to normalize common sense. We have to normalize what Sean just said, which is it's really not that hard. Life was better 4 years ago than it is now. It is insane to trans the kids. It is insane to have an open border. Like, it's really not that complicated. And by wearing this MAGA hat, I felt like it wasn't that I was coming out as this rah, chest-beating conservative. It was just trying to come out and normalize something that I hope all of us can see, which is really quite simple. But before we get to that, I do want to quickly tell you about two things, which are very important. The first one is about gold. Right now, we know that there's a lot of economic volatility, and it's a really good time to tie your assets to something physical. And that's why you should consider priority gold. Economists are warning us about massive tax hikes that could hit our IRA and 401k hard. With inflation rising and global uncertainty looming, it's no wonder that central banks and many Americans are turning to gold. If you haven't thought about gold yet, now is the time, and consider priority gold to help you diversify your savings with gold and silver. Text GOLD into 1-800-405-GOLD for a free gold information guide and see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Experts agree that physical gold is one of the best ways to fortify your savings. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market, at least for now, is golden. Text GOLDEN to 1-800-405-GOLD to learn more. That's text GOLDEN to 1-800-405-GOLD. I'd also like to tell you about My Pillow. And I used to walk into this office wearing my slippers. I don't do that now because I have nice shoes, but I do still walk around other places in my slippers. I sleep on a My Pillow. I sleep on the Giza Dream bed sheets, and you can get a lot of these products at a massive discount. I also use their 6-piece kitchen towel sets, and I use their bath towel sets. All of those things. And you can get them for $25 right now. They're having a $25 extravaganza for kitchen or bath towel sets. You can get their brand new mattress topper for as low as $69.98 and the famous My Pillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. Go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-566-6745 and use the promo code Hartman to get big discounts on all My Pillow products, including the premium queen size My Pillow for only $19.98. That is the lowest price ever for a MyPillow. Don't delay. Order today. Use the promo code Hartman at checkout. That's spelled with one N and no E, HARTMAN. Go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-566-6745.
So you were in and out,
Yes.
wearing a MAGA hat.
I was.
And I want to hear what happened. You didn't just pose for that photo. You wore it the whole time.
I wore it the whole time. Yes. So
What did you order?
I was
have
with
a
Morgan.
go-to at In-N-Out.
Morgan ordered a double cheeseburger with a side of fries. I didn't order anything, actually. But,
You ordered nothing?
I ordered nothing. No, I wanted to go in. This was a social experiment, everybody. This was a social experiment. Because right now, as we're talking about, the DNC is going on. I want Trump to be president. I do not want Kamala Harris to be president. And as we have talked about so many times on this show, it's really not about conservatism anymore. It's not about left versus right. Trump actually even said this the other day. I was saying this on the show for months. He said the other day, it's really not about conservatism. Trump himself even said that. It's just about what we were talking about a few minutes ago, really common sense. And so I thought, what would this be like? I don't do this often. And by the way, I don't really care to live in a society where people are so constantly trumpeting the political. I think that we all just kind of want to be ourselves and go to places and not have this in our faces. But I wanted to figure out or do a kind of social experiment of what it would be like to be in liberal Southern California wearing a MAGA hat during the time of the DNC. Because here in Los Angeles, I know we have viewers from all over the country and in fact, all over the world. I mean, we had an amazing comment. Did you see this on Dennis and Julie from someone from Vietnam who says that they watch our show every week, which is so fantastic. I know we have people from, a lot of different geographic areas, but in Los Angeles, it is very, very common to see people wearing Biden-Harris hats or Biden-Harris t-shirts. And it's interesting because when I pass them on the street, I don't feel any sort of way. I'm just like, okay, that's who they support. No problem. It's not controversial. But then, of course, if you wear a MAGA hat in Southern California, it's incredibly controversial. But why? Why is it that wearing a MAGA hat is controversial, but wearing a Biden-Harris hat is not the same level of controversy? Maybe it's just a product of being in Los Angeles. Maybe it's because Los Angeles is liberal, and maybe if I'm in Texas or if I'm in Florida, it's the opposite. Maybe wearing a MAGA hat is normal, and then walking in with a Biden-Harris hat is the controversy. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have been able to go into In-N-Out.
That's true. It is only a California thing.
You didn't tell me about your little troll stunt to go in And-Out. We should have filmed this. It would have been much more interesting if we had it on video.
We should have filmed it. But the reason that I did it is to sort of, I don't know. I did it for a lot of reasons, but mainly it was to prove this point or to experiment with this point of why is it so controversial? I get it. I'm not stupid. It's a provocative thing to wear a MAGA hat in And-Out in liberal Los Angeles. But I really wasn't going in there to get a rise out of people. I was actually just trying to go in there to normalize it. I want people to go out and walk around more, at least for now, during this time of the election, with MAGA regalia, even though I detest that as a culture, being overly political. I think right now, while the DNC is going on, while we have an election coming up in 75 days, I think it's really important to normalize our positions. And so, yes, put up the photo again, please. I walked in yesterday
what did you run into?
wearing a MAGA hat. What happened to me? Well, we got in line and it was very, very crowded. And right when I walked in, it was so interesting. People were intensely staring at me. It was as if a famous person had walked into the restaurant. Immediately when a famous person walks in somewhere, someone spots them and then the whole place knows that the famous person is there. And I could see that people were looking. I saw this one mom, poor thing. She was eating her burger and then she looks up and she looks down and then she looks up again. She looked really scared. And that actually made me sad. I'm not going in trying to scare anyone, trying to get a rise out of anyone. But it was so interesting. People were looking and I saw people at other tables whispering. And what's also cool is that there were people who, yes, were giving me dirty looks, but let me tell you something. There were a lot of people smiling at me too. And you immediately could tell. And it was so cool because the people who were smiling at me, like we had this kind of look that we understood each other, and they were looking at me with this kind of deep admiration, like I was doing something that they wish that they could do. But what I wanted to say to them is, don't just silently smile at me, you know? Maybe give me a thumbs up or maybe give me a high five. I try to do that when I go out, and the very few times in Los Angeles when I see people wearing a MAGA hat, I try to reward them publicly because I feel that they're doing a public service by normalizing common sense. And I want to reward them because it's not an easy thing to go into In-N-Out in liberal Los Angeles and wear a MAGA hat. So I got in line. Again, people, you know, are kind of talking. People are looking at me. They're smiling, but then also giving me dirty looks. And it was sort of interesting to monitor my own feelings in line, where like that mother who was eating the burger and then looked down and looked up at me, she really did look afraid. Sean's cracking up. I know you're cracking up, but it's actually really sad. And then I started feeling like I did something wrong. You know, I'm playing in my head what she must be thinking of me. She's sitting there, she looks at me, and I know that she thinks that Donald Trump is a horrible person. And I know that she thinks that Donald Trump is a white supremacist. Maybe I shouldn't say I know. I can intuit that she thinks that Donald Trump is this horrible person. And it was so interesting that she looked so fearful. And what was even more interesting was that I started to feel like I was doing something wrong. Of course, the moment passed. I knew I wasn't. I was confident in myself to go in there. But there were these fleeting times when I thought, oh gosh, I don't want her to think this thing of me. But I guess part of living in the truth is knowing that people are going to disapprove of you. People are going to think things of you that aren't true. And you just have to deal with it. So I'm in this line. This woman gives me this look. I start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. I start to feel upset at myself, like I was doing something wrong. I very quickly get past that moment. And then we go up closer to the cash register. And this guy comes up to me and he's super tatted. And it's kind of a gamble, you know? You never know when people are coming up to you. Are they about to give you a high five? Or are they about to punch you in the face? You really just don't know. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, yo, you're voting for that idiot? And I said, yeah. He goes, oh, God, man. Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with him about the economy. It's kind of like that guy in the Don Lemon video who said it about the economy. He goes, yeah, I kind of like agree with him about the economy. He's right about the economy, but he's such an idiot. I said, well, the economy is pretty important. And by the way, everybody in line, they're all looking like, are we about to watch a fight? Are we about to watch this girl get punched? Are we about to watch her fight back? And that's another thing that's really interesting. Because sometimes I find that MAGA people, and I would call myself a MAGA person, sometimes I find that they're very aggressive, you know? They'll start barking about Joe Biden or barking about Kamala Harris. And in that moment, I wanted to show that I could have this great balance of holding my ground, but also not being aggressive. But then even in that moment, I started to go, well, am I not being a warrior? Am I not being strong enough in the truth? I said yes to the guy when he said, oh, you're voting for that idiot. I just said yes. It was a firm yes, but I didn't go on. And then when he said, oh, yeah, I agree with him about the economy, I said, well, the economy is important. But I didn't continue. I didn't go on a rant about transing the kids. I didn't go on a rant about all of these things. And I started to feel a little bit like I was reneging on my responsibilities. But because I was in a MAGA hat, I felt like that was kind of enough in the moment. Because it's hard. As much as we want to normalize and as much as we should, we also have an interest of keeping society together, you know? And so it kind of raises the question of like, how do you be the right advocate in the moment? I didn't want to start a brawl in In-N-Out. But I also wanted to stand firm in my positions. Okay, so then the guy kind of, gets lost. He starts I really couldn't hear what he was saying at that point. It's very loud in there, but he starts to really talk with me. And I said, we disagree, and that's fine, because I wanted other people in line to see that I'm not aggressive. I'm firm, but I'm not aggressive. Then we go up, we order, people are still looking. It was fascinating. It was like the gossip of the place. And then my friend and I go stand and wait for our order. And that is when a very, very brave worker made his support publicly known. This worker who's in the In-N-Out hat, he comes up to me, he daps me up, and he goes, "Make America great again. That's awesome. That's awesome." And I'm like, say it louder for everybody in the restaurant, because I want people to see. This is especially a problem among white liberals in Southern California. White liberals don't understand that racial minorities, that working class people, very much support Donald Trump. And there were many white liberals in that establishment. And I was so proud of this guy, who, by the way, could have been putting his employment on the line, could have been putting his reputation among his coworkers on the line, for publicly saying what he believed and, in a way, supporting me in my support of Donald Trump. So he comes up, he goes, "Make America great again. That's awesome." He's dapping me up. And then he says this really interesting thing. He goes, "Yeah, Ronald Reagan, when he was running for president, his slogan was 'Make America Great Again.' And nobody thought that that was controversial. But then now everybody thinks it's a horrible statement." And you see these people, again, these white liberals looking, and they're like having a white liberal moment where they're like, what do I do? Donald Trump is this evil racist, but then this racial minority working class person is voicing support. And so I guess the moral of the story of all of this is that I want to normalize the normal. We have a barrage of lies coming at us. We're going to have a big barrage of lies coming at us this week at the DNC. I hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I don't think I'm going to be wrong about what we're going to see and talk about over the next 2 days. I want to normalize common sense. But also, it's a group effort. I think it's brave to go in and wear MAGA hats in places. But I also think we need to support each other in those moments of wearing MAGA hats. And I also think we have a responsibility when we do wear MAGA hats, or when we do try to normalize common sense, to show that we are accepting, to show that we're not going to cause a brawl in In-N-Out. We're not going to start barking at people. We're going to articulate our positions well, but we're going to be calm and respecting of other people's differences. Because I fundamentally believe that one of the biggest parts right now of supporting Donald Trump is respecting free speech and respecting differences. And it's a weird moment right now to be a Trump supporter. It's a weird moment right now to be conservative. But I just think it calls for a kind of prudence of both being very brave and out there, and also showing the temperance and normalcy that comes with common sense. That's my little spiel. What do you think?
I wish you had told me you were going to do this, because I could have done the same thing this weekend. I'm wondering how much of it was it being you in a MAGA hat. Like if I were to walk in a MAGA hat, I might.
You mean because you're a man?
I'm a big, burly dude. Like, I don't know if anyone would say anything to me, or they might just shout racist, or you know what I mean. Like,
no one did that.
Any conversation.
No one did that.
But I spent long story short, better part of the weekend in an Apple store, and I wasn't wearing a MAGA hat, but I felt very conservative in the Apple store. Is that weird to say?
Why?
But I wonder what the reaction would have been if I were in the Apple store with a MAGA hat. You know what I mean? Like, there would have been.
I think it would be harder for you as a white male. I think there's a protection being a woman wearing a MAGA hat. However, I am a white woman, so people, of course, were probably making assumptions about me because of my race. Of course, people are probably thinking, of course, a white woman is wearing a MAGA hat. It's interesting, the degrees of protection. But I want to ask you, do you think it was bad that I did that? I'm sort of conflicted. And by the way, one of the things I like about the show is that literally in real time on the air, we can kind of explore together. I try very much to be open-minded and not just come in with a set opinion, but really kind of flesh things out. Because there was half of me that really believed, as I just said, that I was normalizing common sense. And I stand by that. I'm going to continue doing that. But another part of me was like, am I doing the thing that I oppose? Am I making things too political? Am I getting in people's faces, you know? Should we all just not wear any of this stuff in public for the sake of the nation, to depoliticize, or do we wear it to normalize? It's a really interesting thing.
You said early on that you don't want that, right? You don't want everyone in their corners and displaying their political beliefs, or I know you have objections to people with stickers on their MacBooks or their backpacks, or everyone politicizing everything, and I'm generally with you on that. I don't need to know everything about you. Let's have some kind of secular normalcy in society where all of that doesn't come into play all the time. So in that sense, are you doing the opposite of what you are preaching against?
I don't know. And the thing about life is that sometimes it's really ambiguous. But I do think the moment right now calls for that kind of bravery. I do. I think the moment right now calls for that kind of normalcy. So let me know. Let me know what you think. And by the way, let me know if you wear this regalia in public, specifically MAGA regalia, and the kind of reactions that you get. Because as much as maybe it was overly politicizing, I hope and think I gave some Trump supporters in there some confidence. Because when you see someone, especially out in a place like liberal LA, in a place where the narrative or the reputation of the city is that it's hostile to conservatives, when you see someone out there doing that, you get a kind of sense that it's okay and you feel more accepted in your beliefs. So it's very interesting. It's a very multifaceted thing that I was trying to do. Social experiment, giving people bravery, seeing what would happen. And I kind of walked away both being proud of myself and also not being so happy that I did it. But nevertheless, I think that's what we have to do right now. On that final note,
one thing that completely shocked me.
What? Oh yeah, tell me. That I didn't order anything?
Before I tell... Yeah. How do you go in and out and smell the fries, and how do you not order anything?
I know.
God,
I know.
I don't live in that world.
I know. I was just touring a friend.
I think I gained a pound just hearing about you going to In-N-Out.
Well,
Lord.
You know, when you're on the air, my dears, you can't always partake in some of the earthly pleasures that you would like to partake in, including In-N-Out. But you know what you should partake in is buying gold right now, because it is a very good time amidst all of this confusion and volatility to tie your money, which you have earned and worked for, to something physical. That's why you should consider Priority Gold. Economists are warning us about massive tax hikes that could hit our IRA and 401ks hard. With inflation rising and global uncertainty, it's no wonder that central banks and many Americans are turning to gold. If you haven't thought about gold yet, now is the time, and you should consider trusting Priority Gold to help you diversify your savings with gold and silver. Text GOLD into 1-800-405-GOLD for a free gold information guide and see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Experts agree that physical gold is one of the best ways to fortify your savings. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. Text GOLDEN to 1-800-405-GOLD to learn more. That's text GOLDEN to 1-800-405-GOLD. Thank you so much for joining us for this filming, airing schedule. As a reminder, you can check out yesterday's episode of Dennis and Julie. Dennis and Julie is every Sunday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern, and Timeless is live Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at that same time. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Be well.